Debate with Yogi Ishmael about karma. Yogi Ishmael, belief in karma justifies social inequality by suggesting people deserve their positions based on past actions. Darren Anton. Karma isn't a belief. It's a fact. It's a belief to those who can't use their intelligence. What is karma? It's a universal law. It's the law of action and reaction. Anyone who uses their brain can see in their own experiences how their actions determine and create their reactions. Every thought, word and deed has a reaction. And yes, these subtle and gross reactions extend beyond your current physical body, both past and present. Reincarnation or past and future lives in different bodies is real and not a belief system. It is a belief, whether for or against, to those who don't realize it. Living beings, not just humans, are in their condition and position based on their karma. The human social implications of the condition and position people find themselves doesn't mean we shouldn't be compassionate. An atheist can try to justify that there is no supreme creator or God by saying as if such a being exists, he, she or it is unfair. They may reason, how can God exist when there is so much inequity in the world? Some people are born into wealth and privilege, while others are born into poverty and disease. Where one is born is based on their karma and their condition and position is temporary. Even in one lifetime people can go from wealth to poverty or health to sickness and vice versa. Yogi Ishmael. Darren Anton. Science says otherwise and its status as a law is only within the context of the traditions that teach it. And to state that it's the law of action and reaction is oversimplistic and just sloppy thinking. BTW, you know that you cannot prove none of what you are saying and that goes for reincarnation as well. Darren Anton. Yogi Ishmael. Sloppy thinking? When you speak of science, whose science are you referring to? When I use the words, law and facts, I am referring to things that any thinking person can observe. Things outside the platform of belief or opinion. You said that I can't prove anything that I mentioned including reincarnation. I would think that it's obvious for any intelligent person who uses their brain to know that there is a reaction to every thought, word, and deed. That is the definition of karma. It is indisputable, therefore, it is law. There are obvious examples of this and subtle examples as well. Some obvious examples are, hold your hand over a fire, action. Any intelligent person will know what the reaction would be if you keep your hand there even for 10 seconds. Walk off the edge of a 40-story building, action, we know what the reaction would be if you don't have a parachute and if what's below is concrete. As far as proof of reincarnation is concerned, there have been many instances of past life regressions under hypnosis. That is, the subject being taken back to before they were born and recalls places, people, different languages, etc. that they are not consciously aware of in their current incarnation. There have been many instances of people remembering their past lives. There are numerous instances of children coming out of the womb and, at an early age, doing incredible things. As far as proving things like this is concerned, there are instances such as what I mentioned above. There are signs and, sometimes, a person would have to experience it for themselves. For you to imply that there is no such thing as karma, or that it is a belief system, is to suggest that there are no consequences for the things that we think, say, and do. That, sir, is foolish. As I mentioned before, anyone can observe and know many gross and simple examples of karma or, the law of action and reaction, or as you sow, so shall you reap. Higher realizations are experienced by those advanced in knowledge. Just as practice makes perfect in any discipline, practice in spiritual discipline gives realization. I would think that, as a yogi, you would know this. Then again, that begs the question, what kind of yogi are you? Yogi Ishmael. Darren Anton. I'm going to make this simple without oversimplifying. Your argument uses a lot of personal stories to back up its points about karma and reincarnation. However, personal stories can be biased because people might only remember things that fit with what they already believe, anecdotal evidence. Also, Just because something happened to one person doesn't mean it's true for everyone. That is why scientists usually do not use such accounts as evidence. It also conflates ideas like karma and reincarnation with scientific principles such as action and reaction by making it seem like these spiritual concepts are the same as scientific laws, which they are not. The difference is science can be proven with evidence and reincarnation and karma have not. You asked, what kind of yogi am I? I am the kind that recognizes the difference between what can be proven with evidence and weak ideas, concepts, and beliefs that hide under the guise of spirituality. Hope that helps. Indigo Aura. Darren Anton. Yogi Ishmael. Funny. I explained things in such a way that even a baby can comprehend. You respond using words like science and scientific as a justification of your unwillingness to see the obvious. Is pride, ego or both the reason for your nonsensical retort? You trying to save face by clapping back and getting the last word in? I guess it's the thing nowadays to use the words science and scientific to try to shut down any opposing views or perspectives. The government does it. Their corrupt science is bought and paid for by wealthy vested interests. Their scientific institutions lie and falsify data to fit their narrative. You may say you're not religious or believe in God, but science is your religion and your God. The so-called scientific method isn't perfect and has its flaws. Yet, people like you reference it to try to disprove things that they can't understand or comprehend. Ever hear about the parable of the blind men and an elephant? You are just like one of those blind men trying to explain things with your limited mind and senses. Do you know who or what you are? Even if you think you are your temporary body, mind, and senses and identify that as yourself, try to understand the condition and position of those things and how limited they are within the vastness of time and space. The goal of real yoga is to transcend the material and gain realization of the true self and that which is spiritual, to connect with the Supreme. Not to be a believer in a mundane scientific method. The bottom line is, science has discovered a lot of material things that are fascinating. Although they have discovered things such as quantum physics, their understanding about the universe and the workings of the innumerable things in it is extremely limited. They can't even explain what consciousness is. Even if their theory about the origins of life, the Big Bang, held some measure of validity, that only explains the gross side of things or matter. They can't explain how consciousness is connected to gross material bodies. Out of everything they have discovered and are considered to be proven facts, there are countless things they don't know and can't explain. After all, the favorite tools that they like to use are their extremely limited intelligence and tiny brains. They say that they don't know the limits to this universe, and within this one universe there are more stars, suns, than all the grains of sands on all the beaches of the world. They also acknowledge that there are innumerable universes. Since that is the case, how much do you think they can figure out about these innumerable universes and the workings of all the things therein? This includes all things subtle and gross and those things outside of the material dimension. They can't. Their brains alone and collectively are infinitesimally small. Their intelligence alone and collectively is extremely limited. They are beings that are a part of a vast network of other living beings on this infinitesimally small ball, known as Earth, floating in an infinitesimally small section of nowhere among innumerable universes. Yogi Ishmael. Darren Anton. All that to say that science is a conspiracy theory, and because science cannot explain certain phenomena, for example, consciousness, then your spiritual explanations must be valid. That only works on those who do not have the mental capacity to critically think and the ignorant. And again, you can't prove none of what you are saying. You're a believer. Darren Anton. Yogi Ishmael. You don't know what I am. As far as providing proof, I already did. You just don't have the mental capacity to comprehend it. Yogi Ishmael. Darren Anton. You are correct. I don't have the mental capacity to comprehend oversimplified concepts, weak arguments, false analogies, pseudoscience, and concepts and ideas that are removed from their cultural context. Darren Anton. Yogi Ishmael. Let's just agree to disagree on these matters. Peace. Bhaktika Prize. Yogi Ishmael. Science says if I touch a hot iron, I'll get a reaction. Both the work and the results are defined as karma. It is not one or the other. Yogi Ishmael. Bhaktika Prize. To reduce karma to if I touch a hot iron, I'll get a reaction, is an oversimplification to the point of being disingenuous. Karma as taught in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism is much more detailed and is deeply intertwined with beliefs about rebirth, the cycle of reincarnation, and the moral implications of one's actions across multiple lifetimes. Would you not agree? William Kirkland. Bhaktika Prize. Yogi Ishmael. Actually you're crossing over into Bhagavad Gita territory. No disingenuousness here. I don't speculate when I have Krishna teaching about karma yoga in a whole chapter. Yogi Ishmael. Bhaktika Prize. The disingenuousness comes in when trying to equate karma to if I touch a hot iron, I'll get a reaction. When you know better. Or is it that you don't know? Darren Anton. Bhaktika Prize. Yes, he did pass into Bhagavad Gita territory. His post implies that he knows more than what Krishna says about it and what Srila Prabhupada's comments are on it. Ishmael says, karma is a belief because it has its roots in religious, philosophical traditions and it lacks scientific proof or observability. What he's saying here is that there are no scientific proofs in religious and philosophical traditions. I explained to him what the definition of karma is according to the spiritual teachings of the Vedas. Karma is complex and simple at the same time. Simply stated, it is the law of action and reaction. It is a law of material nature put in place by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. I gave him simple and observable examples of karmic actions and reactions. His response was that my examples were oversimplistic. Ishmael thinks science is separate from the spiritual tradition of the Vedas. He ties all religious and philosophical traditions together and pits them against science. He thinks that the only proof of something is by observing it via the mind and senses. I explained to him that the scientific method has flaws. I gave him examples of it and mentioned how the modern-day scientific institutions cheat and lie. His response was that I said science is a conspiracy theory. That's not what I said, nor is it what I implied. Just because he has no realization of that which is spiritual or outside the confines of material nature, he thinks no one does and no one ever has. He thinks that it's not real and doesn't exist because it can't be proven by materialistic science. Bona fide yogis know of the spiritual science, apply the principles of it, and get the results. Even Mayavad yogis get results. After much waste of time, I'm done discussing it with him. Bhaktika Prize. Darren Anton. I personally don't have time for opinions and speculation. I'm comfortable with Krishna's words on any given topic. Particularly karma. By the way, you did a great job of explaining, and if he doesn't want to accept, that's his choice. Bhaktika Prize. Yogi Ishmael. I'll get a reaction from touching a hot iron, but you won't because you are Ishmael Yogi and in your universe, the laws of physics are different. I respect where you're coming from, Mars. Yogi Ishmael. Bhaktika Prize. Yes, you would get a reaction from touching a hot iron, and if you believe that is an example of karma, then hey, do you? From Baba said to Krishna said, I guess. Bhaktika Prize. Yogi Ishmael. Okay,